Namaskaram, hello and welcome to PGurus channel. Today I have the pleasure of Srimati Lakshmi Bayi Nalapat with me, joining me, and we are going to talk about a very interesting topic, the status of women in India, perhaps prior to and also after the Islamic and the British occupation of India. Lakshmi ji, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaste Shri, and thank you for having me.
Lakshmi ji, it's always a pleasure talking to you, and our viewers, I'm sure, are really tuning in to listen to your thoughts. I just wanted to touch upon the article you wrote in the Open magazine where you talked about the concept of Swayamvara, and then you also touched upon Devadasi system and things like that. I just thought we will have a really good look at perhaps starting from, Rama, Sita Swayamvar, and then see how the woman's role in the society, in the Sanatani society, has evolved, how it has been such an exalted space. And without putting too many words in your mouth, I'd just like you to start this discussion going. Take it away, and you can start whenever you want in history, and then we can start looking at the role of the woman.
So let me start out with a completely politically incorrect statement. Okay, I am not a believer in women's liberation. I do not believe that women need liberation, because the next obvious question is, what do you need liberation from? From men? Please give me a break, Sri. I believe that, okay, let's start at the very beginning. It's always easier. Each one of us are born on earth as we know it in a body. Correct?
Right.
When I think of Sri Iyer, I do not think of your PGurus channel. I think of you with your spectacles, the way you look. The other things come only, secondary, and, it things you add on the nuances, right? So whatever you may say, whatever anybody might claim, this destruction of the body is not the ideal of Sanatana Dharma. So now you come to women, okay? Just as there are, for men also, this is why I said I'm against women's liberation. I am for liberation of all human beings. They should have the freedom to decide. They should have the freedom to decide what to eat, what to drink, when to sleep, what to work, and also what kind of relationship you have with people of the opposite sex or the same sex. This is a very personal decision. Okay. Now let us take the case of women in ancient India. Okay. There is a shloka, Sanskrit shloka, which says Panchakanyas pare nityam, Mahapapa vinashanam. And it is very interesting to note who the Panchakanyas are. They are not Savitri, they are not Sita, as you would expect. They are not even, Parvati, who is the reincarnation of Sati. Now, these are the things which we sort of expect, because it's fixed in our head that, oh, they are the perfect women. Now, the Panchakanyas, very interestingly, are from Mahabharata and Ramayana. Okay? And they are Tara, Ahalya, Mandodari from Ramayana. Okay? And they are Draupadi and Kunti from Mahabharata. Let's go from Ramayana to Mahabharata. Okay? Ahalya is a lady, wife of sage Gautama, with whom Indra had an affair. Gautama cursed her for being unchaste. She is Panchakanya, please. And then you have Tara, wife of Sugriva and Bali. Okay, she's Kanya number 2. Mandodari, the wife of Ravan.
Yes.
And Mandodari does not spare any words when it comes to criticizing her husband about his activities, whatever. Lots of people misaccuse Ravana of rape. Ravana was such a handsome, charming man that a lot of women fell for him. In Ravana's case, there is only one uh, recorded physical rape which Ravana commits. There is an Apsara called Rambha. Apsaras, incidentally, are they are completely chaste, but they are women whose chastity is renewed every day. Nalakubara, see, I didn't write. I didn't write the Ramayana. See, I noticed your smile. It was written by Valmiki, correct? Now,
Yes.
Nalakubara was, it's his relationship with Ravana is almost like his nephew. Nalakubara had booked Rambha, so to speak, for that evening. And Ravana sees Rambha having a bath before she goes to Nalakubara. And Ravana rapes her. And Rambha curses Ravana, saying that if you touch any other woman without her willingness, all your 10 heads will burst. Which is probably why Ravana did not catch Sita and take her. He lifted up the ground where she was standing. So he did not touch her. He did not touch her ever. And he took her to Lanka, of course, against her will, of course. And he put her in Ashokavana, right? And each time Ravana came and, sort of first, tried to cajole her, and then pleaded with her, and then harangued her, naturally. She would put a blade of grass in front. That's it. That blade of grass was enough to break Ravana's 10 heads. It was actually fear of what would happen to him that prevented Ravana from physically attacking Sita. Because in his Lanka at that time, Rama was far away. He didn't even know where Sita was, right? So it is this curse, and mind you, it is the curse of an Apsara, a so-called unchaste being, which saved the chastity of Sita. At least till Rama comes and rescues her.
Now, two questions come to my mind,
Oh,
Lakshmi ji. First question, if it's okay with you, if I can
sure,
ask you the question
of
now.
course.
As far as Sita is concerned,
Hmm.
Rama is essentially an avatara.
Hmm.
Did Rama not know that Ravana had this curse on him? Then why did he suspect his wife of fidelity?
You mean after he gets Sita back?
Yes, yes.
I think that is more a case of Caesar's wife has to be not just to be chaste, but she has to be seen to be chaste also, because Rama was commanding not an Ayodhyan army. Please remember, he was commanding a Vanar Sena, and the Vanars didn't know Sita from anybody. So it is more to prove to them that his wife, who had stayed with in Ravana's land for so long, was still pure. Because Agni Sakshi, it is like Agni Pariksha. You can't get
So
more.
I understand where you're coming from, but I have a slightly different follow-up question on this. How did Sita know that Ravana had this curse?
Well, that must be gossip. I'm sure. I don't know that. I haven't read that part of because see also news travels, right? Because Sita would also and okay, I have a correction. Actually, I've thought of this. I do not think Sita was so aware of the curse. Of Rambha's curse. Sita just did not want anything to do with Ravana at all. Sita once her obsession with the golden deer, which was Marich in another form, who came to tempt her away from Rama. Once
Right.
she got over that, very solidly, if I may say, got over that, and very solidly and sadly. She really learnt a lesson with that. Once she got over that, then ever since she was lifted up, because please remember, Sita comes out of the Lakshman Rekha not thinking that this is a demon king who's going to whiz me away. He was a sadhu. Ravana came to Sita as a sadhu, and she was doing the sadhu dharma when she handed him the rickshaw outside the Lakshman Rekha. And ever since she was whipped away by Ravana, her love, probably with a case of absence making the heart grow fonder, her mind was totally fixed on Rama. You can imagine she had, Lanka would have given her such a lot of opportunities, such a lot of temptations to be the wife of such. And Ravana, whatever anybody might say, was a man of a, was a person, demon, whatever. He was a person of great stature.
Now, let's move to Mahabharata because we have a lot of ground to cover. You talked about two people in Mahabharata. I think you only mentioned Tara in passing. We can, if we have time, we can go back to Tara later, but let's move forward first and then we can go back if we have time. So in Mahabharata, you mentioned two characters, Kunti and Draupadi. Can you dwell upon a little bit about these two people?
Maybe out of curiosity, whether Durvasa's mantra would work, but Kunti had an affair with Surya and they produced Karna.
I thought it was not affair as much as chanting the mantra. I mean, this is where my understanding of this thing is a little fudgy.
See, I'll tell you one thing. See, if you've looked at the carvings of the ancient temples, I'm not talking about the temples which have come up in the last 30 years or even 100 years. I'm talking about really, really ancient temples. You see men and women in very loving positions. Unfortunately, it is the lack of knowledge, the lack of correct information, which makes Indians, Tantra, whatever it is, as sex orgy. It is not. And take Adi Shankara's Saundari Lahari. You have Shiva Shaktya Yukto. Now Shiva is considered to be a Mahadeva, Devonka Dev, correct? Now
Right.
why should Shiva have a Shakti aspect to create? If you go down the shloka, it is like without Shiva and Shakti mingling, nothing happens. Na kushala spanditumapi. So he's very clear. Shankaracharya is very clear, and he is also a celibate till Madana Mishra's wife challenges him, saying that your knowledge is not complete and you cannot climb on the Sarvajna Peetham. And then you have that story of his Parakaya Pravesham, and then he learns about sexuality, physicality, and then only is he qualified to sit on the uh, on the uh, mm, on the Sarvajna Peetham.
To
Now,
debate Mandana Mishra.
yes, and then only he could sit because he knew nothing about physicality, right? And Vatsyayan, who wrote the Kama Sutra, I don't know how many people have read the Kama Sutra before saying, hey, it's all dirty. Now, what is so dirty about the human body? This is something which we have to remove. If you look at how, why are people of this country in this trap? Largely of their own making, because we have not had the confidence to stand up or sit up or whatever it is and say that, look, we have this huge, rich literature. We have this rich, social norms. Of course, people from other faiths are most welcome because we're not stubborn. We don't say that only our stuff is right. No, there's space. Somebody wants to become a celibate. Somebody wants to become a saint. Go ahead. You see. So this whole idea of Kunti reciting a mantra, I really don't know if it was just a mantra,
Okay,
right?
so post Surya, right? Yes, post Surya. Suddenly, Karna appears in a casket. She's not married. She's now doesn't know how to explain this. So she puts it in a golden casket, put all ornaments and jewelry, and then sets the thing down the river.
Correct.
So you're going with a narrative there. I just want to put you back on that narrative. So please continue. I'm sorry
No,
for
now,
interrupting.
if it was just a mantra, now I'm acting like a lawyer, okay? If it was just a mantra, it was so simple. Kunti could have said, "Look, I took care of the Durvasa. He gave me these mantras. I recited this mantra, and this kid happened." It is the problem is that she's not married. The issue is her virginity or lack of it. How could she say that this is my child? And it is because she was scared that Karna would not be accepted, or she herself, she and the child would be ostracized, that she floats off the kid and disowns him completely. So Kunti is the mother-in-law, okay, who has more than one partner. Now you come to her daughter-in-law, Draupadi. It is Arjuna who won her, fair and square. But then Kunti comes in. I mean, they go to the stories that they come outside Kunti's hut, and Kunti says, "Whatever it is you have, share it equally between the five of you." I have a theory that maybe Yudhishthira, because he is my least favorite Pandava. Let me put it that way. Yudhishthira had a glad eye uh, on Panchali. This was his. He could have very well said, "Look, this is a bride. You can't divide a woman into five." I mean, why is it that they didn't say, Kunti says divide it equally? Why didn't they chop up Draupadi just as a matter of interest?
No, I think let's get into more of a philosophical level because literal interpretations can get us into very different paths.
Okay,
So now, one step back, Lakshmi ji. So uh, she gets married to Pandu, and
correct,
there's a problem there, isn't it? Which is why Yudhishthir and Bhima and Arjuna happened.
correct.
So how did she explain this to Pandu? Because the whole world may not ask these questions. But
Ah,
Pandu knows.
yes.
So how did she explain that to Pandu?
Pandu's desire for children was so desperate that he would have agreed to it. He knew very well, and he also saw his other wife Madri produce Nakul and Sahadeva, right?
No, I thought that had to do with she knowingly did that because she knew that having a sexual union with Pandu will result in his death, isn't
Yes,
it? Isn't that the
yes,
curse there?
yes,
So that was a knowingly done thing.
yes.
But that was afterwards. It came later. First, we had these three children.
Yes, but the thing is that they were accepted as Pandavas. All I mean, both the children of the children of both the mothers were who were not fathered by Pandu, by the way, were
Hmm.
accepted as Pandavas.
Yes, yes,
Because
yes,
like you
yes.
have the only thing which is Mubola here, which is like like you say and it happens,
Right, right.
is the Rakhi brother, which is continuing in India.
Hmm.
Otherwise, Pandavas were a Mubola sons of Pandu. It's as
Right,
simple as
right,
that.
right, right, right.
And you also have Satyavati, strangely, who did not want any opposition or any competition for her possible heirs. You find her having to beg her eldest son, Vedavyas, to impregnate her daughters-in-law, her other daughter. I mean, her daughters-in-law, when both her other sons had passed away. So I think birth, death, everything was just it's a natural progression. See, it was nobody made a big deal of it. Everything was very natural. It was in its place. And see, I mean, I have my grandfather's mother who gave birth simultaneously with her daughter, and her eldest daughter assisted in the mother's delivery. So it was part of big deal. There's no secrecy about it. There's no, like people were open. And the moment you start covering up, that is when the problem comes. Anywhere.
So, how did Draupadi react to what Kunti said that Ivy shared, what was her viewpoint in this?
It is read. It is said that Draupadi loved Arjuna the most. And when the Pandavas go to are on their way to heaven, Draupadi is the first one to fall because she did not love all her 5 husbands equally. And it is as she lies dying that she realizes that the person who loves her most is Bhima. Because whenever Draupadi wants anything, it is Bhima who's there, not Arjuna. You see? You have Radha's love affair with Krishna, married woman, older woman, daughter of Vrishabhanu, his kinswoman, so to speak, and it is celebrated. You have this obsessive passion that Mahishasura has for Bhagavati. He doesn't say, "I want to be your subject." He doesn't say, "You be the empress and I will be your mantri or whatever." He says, "I want you. I want to marry you." So, like motherhood, like when a child, a woman bears a child in her body for 9 months, 10 lunar months, expels the child. Then the child is dependent on the mother normally for nourishment. It's a very physical act, right? It's a very physical act. So to lovemaking. Friends may have intimacy, they may put their arms around each other, but there's a limit to it. But between a Shiva and a Parvati, uh, and any man and a woman who are in love, or whatever it is, who are in lust also for that matter, it is an act of great intimacy. And why is it that we are bringing this act of intimacy into something gee, it's dirty?
Is this the Victorian mores that were imposed on India when the British started colonizing India? Is that when it changed, or did it change even before that?
See, there is a saint called Uddalaka.
When did he live?
Uh, I am very, very bad with dates. I can't remember. I've got it written down somewhere.
Okay.
Uddalaka insisted that Uddalaka he went on a long course of celibacy, and he was asking one of his favorite pupils to actually have sexual relationships with his wife because he thought otherwise, within quotations, I am failing my duty as a husband. See, the thing is, in ancient India, we had many facets. We were not just uni-faceted. It was not, I am a sannyasi, now I'm going to sit on top of, some mountain and close my eyes and, my wife can go to hell, my kids can go to hell, I don't care. You see, you have to make provisions for that. And look at Rukmini sending a love letter unseen to the unseen Krishna, saying, please come and, like Achyut. The word Achyut comes from there. She calls him Achyut, you know, and then she says, please come and save me. And in ancient India, we had many types of marriages, okay? Many types of marriages. We had the Brahma, which was perfect, which where people, both the bride and the groom, would be of great excellence. Then you had the Deva. Then you had the Arsha, where the groom had to give cattle to his in-laws. I mean, to be in-laws. Okay. Then you have the Gandharva, which is just a man and a woman. Shakuntala and Dushyanta was Gandharva. It's just a man and woman deciding that they are going to get together. Then you have also the Prajapatya. Prajapatya is, I would say that probably when everybody says okay, fine, which is probably it's a sort of watered down or a different, slightly different version, which is happening in India now. If it's an arranged marriage, some people come together and say, okay, my kid and my son and your daughter get married, blah blah blah. Okay, and then um, you have the Asura marriage where you pay for the bride. And there is an argument between Rakshasa marriage and Paishachika marriage. Okay. Rakshasa marriage is when the victor comes and he takes all the women, and he takes the wealth of the land, he takes the women of the land also. Paishachika is actually rape. Paishachika is probably the ancient version of Rohypnol, the date drug, the rape. The date rape drug, because you get the woman intoxicated, you do all kinds of things. That's an absolute force, because this woman, the woman does not have any say in the matter. Either she's too conked out, or she's forced. So even then you had gradations of relationship.
It's a fascinating conversation we are having, Lakshmi ji, and I'm afraid we are kind of pressing the clock here. So let's move to a more contemporaneous society. Say Prithviraj Chauhan's wedding, where Samyukta her father did not invite Prithviraj, but he wanted to insult him, and in order to do that, he installs a statue of Prithviraj. And then she's asked to walk down the Swayamvar, and she decides to put the mala on the statue, right? So in all this, that's how the first big blow to India happened, because Samyukta's father bore that grudge, and then when Gauri kept, was it Ghazni or Gauri? I don't remember which one. It is Gauri kept losing to Prithviraj. One time he says that, the time of attack you need to change. Don't fight during the day. Come and attack the Prithviraj camp at 3 a.m. or something like that. And that's how Prithviraj ends up losing. Now, this whole story here, what is the takeaway? Should Samyukta have waited and got her father to properly let her marry Prithviraj, instead of Prithviraj having to come on his horse and take her away? What could have happened, which would have probably defined India's history in a different way?
I would say that the fault is not with Samyukta, because Samyukta and Prithviraj loved each other. Very simple. The problem is when Jayachand, Samyukta's father, goes and calls an outside person to settle a domestic dispute. And what does the outsider have? He has nothing to lose. He has everything to gain also. Even if you take a humdrum every day situation, that's what happens. And that is exactly what happened. And Prithviraj also made this huge mistake of forgiving him so many times. Okay, let him go once, twice, thrice. Thrice is the last one. You don't forgive people who are hell-bent on attacking you. Because this is, I would say that the subversion of quote unquote kindness exactly had started from there. If you read the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna does not say, okay, Arjuna, there are 5 of you, there are 100 of them, let them take the land. Tata, bye bye, you come to Dwaraka. You're anyway, my Subhadra's, I think Subhadra's husband, right?
Yeah, Subhadra's daughter is married to Abhimanyu.
So
yes.
Then he could have very well said, and Kunti is his bua, his father's sister. Why did he say that? So I'm not saying, see, please don't initiate force. But if force is initiated against you, please don't sit on your hands and say, we are good people, we are pavams, we are nice people, we don't fight. Because if you say that, you can say that, but then you have to take the consequences, whatever they be.
I want to, that's an excellent explanation, Lakshmiji. I want to kind of define this. What was the intention of Swayamvar? Because I'm just going back to that age.
Yeah.
The princesses don't have one-on-one interaction with the people who are going to come seeking her hand. All she has is the benefit of description of the kingdom of a certain king from other people, probably Dutas or whoever go there, and they come back and say, okay, this kingdom, this king, this thing, and then they probably embellish the facts also. This guy looks this much and all. So how was Swayamvar as a philosophy, how did it take root in India?
Is there actually, except for the technology part of it, is there any difference between Swayamvar and Bharat Matrimony or something like one of those wedding sites? Because what do you say? Is anybody going to say that, oh, I have a son who's a dud, and I'm hoping that after marriage, his wife will give him a kick in the backside, which will, make him better than he is, or do a better job on him than we have?
So what you're trying to say is people try to put their best face forward, best foot forward, in whether it is Bharat Matrimony or in Swayamvar days.
Of course.
That was a great answer.
No,
I'm completely
I
floored.
mean, see, there is a saying, now you have to say 100 lies to get a marriage done, conducted. They say that in my hometown.
Actually, the way I understood it is like there are two challenges in life. You
Huh.
build a house and you perform a marriage. Those are the two biggest challenges for a grahasti in life. But this is just Tamil saying, we take a tipar,
Huh.
kalyanam panipar.
Huh.
So that kind of teaches you the whole what life is all about.
That's true. I started graying when I got married. I mean, when I got not sorry. No, now MD is going to kill me for this. But when I built my house, hmm.
So
And whichever nieces and nephews I have, I tell them, please, hello, don't make us responsible for your future. You go and choose whoever you want. Whoever you want, fine, we'll accept it. If you make a mistake, okay, you make a mistake, but you go through the mistake. At least the mistake is yours.
yes, indeed. So, Lakshmiji, let's we can easily get carried into each conversation and have a thread of its own. Let's go back to what happened during the time when. How did the matrilineal society of Kerala evolve? Where are the beginnings of this? Perhaps you can shed some light on this. And then after that, we can say Mangalam to this particular episode because I do want to continue this into another part. But right now, I have some other challenges in terms of time. So I just wanted to dwell on the Kerala segment and then we'll have a continuation a little bit later.
Sure. See, what happened is that when there were more women than men in the population, um, the women had to, I mean, it was easier for uh, a woman to share a husband, so to speak. Okay. And see, again, it goes back to the same point that sex was not the end all be all. See, which is happening now. If you look at the Devdasis and if you look at all those courtesans, you kings had wives, royalty wives. They had children out of the royalty, but the Devdasis they had to have 64. They had to have knowledge of the 64 Kalegal, and in Kerala, we started taking the mother's name, not the father's name. The mother points out to a gentleman and says, that is your father, that is your father. That's it, finished. Now, the mother, everybody knows because she's giving birth. It's very difficult. It's much more difficult to substitute a mother, the true mother, than a true father. It can be anybody. And the wealth also started going through the women. That's how the women became educated. Kerala became educated because the women were educated, and the women would see that their children are at least as educated as they are. The men would be educated; they may or may not, see that it comes down to the next generation. And women were, they had that, there was no taboo. In fact, there are women who have had children from. I know women personally. I'm going to be 59, so it's within that time gap. I know women who have had children from different fathers, and there's no stigma because the family name is the Amma's family name. It's there's, are you let's say Lakshmi Varma or Lakshmi Iyer or Lakshmi Iyer is no, sorry, Iyer, both the Nambudiris and the Tambrams don't have matrilineal, or Lakshmi Shetty or Lakshmi Nair, same thing. That is when the problem comes. But if it's my mother's family name, big deal. Nobody's bothered.
So you bring out an interesting point here. So it was not just the Ayers from Palghat or whatever from south that were marrying into these families, but also the Bunts or what do you call as Bundt. I don't know how to say
Ah,
exactly.
Bunts. I think it's called
Bunts. Yeah. So, so the matrilineal hierarchy evolved from what period approximately?
I have
Uh,
no clue except that it has. I think from 16. See, you have an interspersion of both. From I think from 1600s, and my history is not my whatever it is
Forte.
point, but it's not. But I think the inheritance of the throne was at one time Makkatayam, which is father to son, father to child, father to son, then obviously, not daughter. And then it became Marimakkatayam, which is the matrilineal.
Fascinating information, fascinating stuff. What India was and what India is now. We certainly, not just India, but the whole world today is bound by these victorial mores. That's not the whole topic today. We are more talking about the role of the woman in the society. She was respected, and when every time we see these cases of the horrible case of Priyanka Reddy was you know horrible. I mean, these people are now getting to a level where no human can do something. And so I think as a society, how do we make sure they understand that women were such kept in such high honor, such a higher exalted status? Why is that today's society has forgotten all this, Lakshmiji? With this, you can share your thoughts, and then we can call this a show.
See, I'll tell you one thing. There is no proper sex education. There is no point in telling a 22-year-old fellow, please be respectful to the women. He looks at how his father's behaving to his mother. The way, hey, the tone. So these are things which are taught from by example and from childhood. You don't find it's very rare that you find a rapist son of a extremely decent father. Very rare. I'm not saying it's not there. Of course, there are aberrations are there. So unless a woman is, and this is what I said. This comes back to my first point that look, I'm not for women's liberation per se. I am for liberation of every human being. Why should just women be liberated? You also heard of cases of husband beating, also, right? So that is as bad as wife beating. So unless you drill in this basic respect for every human being, whatever they be, men, women, children. This is wonderful, wonderful a Tamil way of where even a 2-year-old is called Amma. You know that. What a beautiful and what a nice way. It's a 2-year-old kid. You don't call her a in there.
It's also used in Telugu also in Andhra and Telangana. They affectionately call their daughters as Talli, which is
Mother.
mother,
Yeah.
because that is another term of endearment.
Yes. Yes. So when you have, unless and until you have basic respect all through for per se, because a human being is a human being, not because of accoutrements and add-ons. Unless you have that in you, if you didn't have that in you, you would not be having this conversation with me because you would be uncomfortable. See, Shri? Because you don't want to
Yes,
discuss things which you're uncomfortable about.
absolutely. I agree with you there.
See, and one thing I can tell you personally, you won't have any problem in getting your beautiful daughter married off. I'm sure there will be a version of Swayamvara with guys waiting with their eager faces saying, choose me," or probably WhatsApping, choose me nowadays. Oh,
So, Lakshmiji, I am very, very happy that we had this conversation, and I can tell you one of the things that I'd like to talk about is the similarities between the Devadasi system and the geisha
ah,
in Japan.
yes,
Very, very similar. When you told me about the 64 arts, that
yes,
knowledge was there. The
yes.
same thing is to happen in Japan. It's still in place, geishas, and we are going to talk about that in our next conversation with Lakshmiji.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much, and this has been a revelation to a lot of our viewers. Viewers, you have to keep an open mind. This is how great India was, and we need to bring it back to that point. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you very much for having Sri. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you. Namaste.
Namaskar. Namaskar.